Good afternoon, traders. Welcome to Trade Setup and live stream for the 2nd of December. Hope we're all doing well today, having a lovely day. Beautiful Melbourne weather down here, so it was really nice and sunny. Expecting a great weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, let's just kick it off. Obviously, with the just the usual, going through the general advice warning, which you can see on the screen there. Take a look at that when you get a chance, and the disclaimer. I just want to let you know that what we talk about and what we explain, and is basically all our ideas regarding trade setup and the app. Our ideas, there's no specific advice, so yeah, just so everyone knows that, and all are aware. Take your time to read through that when you get a chance, and also just our website. Just as usual, just want to go through. You can click on our new website there. You can click on see the results. I think it's up from the past year, from about the 10th of November 2015 until recent, I think the last few days anyway. And you can claim your 5-day free trial of the Trade Setup app just by clicking that the right hand button there, the orange buttons. So yeah, feel free to take a look through there, nothing to hide. Any questions, you can send them through to support@tradesetup.com.au. Okay, let's get into it then. So the first port of call, we're just going to go through the markets. There's a couple of charts and what's the latest overnight, what's happening. We've also got, so what we're going to look at today, the title of the chat, the quick chat today was kick your trading into the next gear. All right, I just want to go through, I guess, what I do, how I plan out a trade, and just piecing together from start to finish and what we look for. Especially through the app, and what we the process we go through for trading, and then just want to look through some indicators and how we use them. They might be slightly different to a lot of people, the way that you're taught to use them. Actually, probably are a bit different. I know there's a few different ways. You can Google all sorts of things. We ideally like to look at momentum indicators anyway, so we'll go through a bit of that later on, and then we'll get into any questions that you may have on different charts, different topics. Like I said, just whack them into chat, put the code into chat, and we've got one from Anne-Marie on SEK, SEK. We're going to take a look at the chart there, so we've got that, Anne-Marie, if you're listening, and we'll take a look at that just a bit later on. Alright, let's just kick it off then. I've got a few notes written down here, so I'm just quickly glancing at them as we go. Let's get into it. Let's just drop that. Let's get into... Whoop. That's not the right one. Alright, we've got the market down 28 at the moment. I didn't expect too much weakness today, but then again, we were sitting on a pretty... We're sitting right on some support. Let's just take a look at it now. Yeah, this is the 30-minute chart of the ASX. You can see we pushed up through that 55.05 zone. That was recently. That was back a few days now. I think around the 27th, 26th. Pushed up above that zone, and we sold off, and had a decent little sell-off, and pushed down to 54.23, and we bounced off there, and we just pushed back up to the 5500 really. That 55.05 zone again. Couldn't get through this time, and the key level coming into today from the overnight trade was 54.80, and you can see that we did that initial candle. If we just get rid of some of these markups, so any of these, you can see these red and green lines. It's just sort of price action we could expect today, and how to play that off the key levels. So we tend to send that out each morning. Trade Setup app, just send that out. So if you haven't got it, just take a look at that. Are you there, Anne-Marie? Great, fantastic. Alright, so we can say that little spike through 54.80, I thought there might have been a decent washout, so expecting a washout. And a lot of the times when they come into a support zone or resistance zone, either way, from the overnight session, they tend to wash it out. They can wash out both. If there's something close enough within 15 to 20 points, they can wash out both sides really easy. Just before the 10 o'clock, when everything kicks off, or 10:05, so the SPY tends to wash it out, and this is what the CFD's obviously following that. Then we got the ASX that opened. This is a half an hour chart, so it would have been at least in the second candle. We got that, tried to push up, got to about 54.95, and that's just rejected. You can see sellers are coming there, and we just pushed it through that 54.80 recently. We had a number out, I think at 11:30. You can see that was teetering on there, 54.80 just then, and I don't know what that number come out at. It wasn't a big one. Let me just get something up here, guys. just be a tick. I just want to see what those numbers were. For anyone that doesn't know, you can go onto Forex Factory, forexfactory.com. You can just get the numbers that are out for the day. It's probably not so useful if you're longer term trading, but it is useful when you're looking at intraday stuff, even daily stuff, just to see what the bigger numbers where they can push around the market. What do we got today? That's Friday. Here we go. 11:30 retail sales. Oh, so bigger number, better than expected. So last is 0.6, expecting 0.3, and it came out at 0.5. Yeah, so actually better than expected, but a little less than previous, so I guess that's getting a bit of a sell-off there. So you can see it's just pushing back off that 5500 zone, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, whether we find some support, whether we're just retracing some of that leg up, like we always say, 1/3 to 2/3 of that leg up. If you can see, just like to draw a slightly different color there. So we've got this current leg higher, whether we just retracing 1/3 to 2/3, so somewhere around this zone. If we can hold up above 54.50, build that major higher low, even into sort of this consolidation we saw through here between 54.50 up to 54.75 thereabouts. If we can pull back into that zone and we find some buying and step it up, may find that we end up bouncing and then pushing back up through 5500 and continuing on our merry way. Let's just take a look at that daily on the XJO, if we can get that up. XJO is the ASX, so yeah, still not too bad. Look, there's yeah, you can see that same sort of price action. The key levels obviously is down here, that 54.20. We want to see that high low build if we're going to take it up through 5500. Otherwise we can it's just struggling around that 55. That was a bit of a washout, a pullback. We'll try it again. Pulled up a little bit short than previous highs, and then we could roll over and take out that 54.20 thereabouts. But you can see that move down, that most recent move down anyway. It's getting a bit extended down there on the pullback. So, and we're nowhere near 54.20. So I'm expecting more of a high low to build. But time will tell. We'll see how that plays out. All right, let's just kick it over to the Aussie. Now, we've spoken about this previously. We saw that that leg lower, that good leg lower. That's from that 77.50 zone. I think it was up 77.50, even higher than that, wasn't it? Bit of a wash out of that 77.50 resistance zone. Good move lower, and we've contracted that back up, and we were looking at that probably a couple of days ago now. For the potential of that to hold up and then roll over, building that lower high, and we did get that lower high just in here. It's probably not as clear on let's click it down to a 30-minute chart, and you can see that trend up was broken through 74.50, and with that push down, retested the highs. So you got that zone there at 74.50 through here. If we can just let's just circle it here. Anyway, that little, I don't like when they keep doing that. Alright, so we got that, had that push lower off the high, so it was around 7500. Level down here, sort of a key anchor, and we've had that push up, retest those highs, a pullback, wash out this 74.50 zone. You can see through here. So that to me is showing that trend, that sort of contraction higher of that major leg down is starting to fail. And then you'll be looking for that. We obviously had a retest, so the Aussie tends to do that a lot. The FX as well. Well, FX, the other currencies as well tend to retest those highs, even wash them out after breaking breaking the trend here, like we saw. A big move back up to retest those highs, and then we got that lower high. What we're looking for then, we had big sell-off down to sort of that 73, 75 zone. So a lot of fat in that trade. You can see that was a beautiful sell-off actually. Really good sell-off, and even if you just took it off a half an hour trade through that support zone there, 74.60 say, your risk was just up here, 74.89. So probably about a 30 to 40 pip risk, but the payout was phenomenal. It was really good. Even just targeting down here, you got 1.5 to 1, 74.30 say. But yeah, good So that definitely, we're just getting a bit of reaction off that 73, 75 zone, a bit high, but still that key zone is going to be up at 75. So it'll be interesting to see if we can hold another high low and then work our way back up, or we build that major lower high and just roll over again. The S&P, a bit of that same scenario. You can see that push up all the euphoria over the election and potential inflation and all that sort of stuff has pushed it higher. You can see that trend has been broken with that move down here, come and retest even that washout of that resistance around 22.12. Bit of a washout, and we build that lower high around 22.03. So that's the key level at the moment, holding down that trend, and we've just broken through. Well, as of last night, I think it was. Yeah, our job about 4 a.m. broke through that support at 21.94. So that intraday at least, or the shorter term at least, is heading south. We've got some big numbers out in the US tonight. Just remember those if you're looking at intraday trading, or just be careful of those around 12:30 tonight. Is the payrolls. They're the biggie out of the US. So keep an eye on those if you're looking at it. I don't know exactly what they're expecting, but let me just quickly get those back up. You can see it on here as well. What do we got? 12:30. That's not it. Down here. Non-farm employment change. Last of 100 plus 161,000. Expecting a little bit more, 177,000. So if they come up around that 177 mark, even a little bit stronger, expect that US dollar to kick on and the Aussie to get sold off, and we might see a bit more selling into equities. Just this sort of trend continue, but either way around that number, you'll get a wash out of both sides. So yeah, just keep that in and keep that noted. Anyway, let's get into it. So any questions just over that before we kick it off? Let me sip my coffee. All right. All right, let's get into the topic of the day then. So kick your trading into the next gear. So what I'm going to discuss, and what I'd like to discuss, is just how we go about the process of picking out a trade, and what you're sort of looking for. Obviously, everyone's different. Everyone bases their opinions off different things. Whether you're pure fundamental, you're a bit of a blend of both, or you're pure technical. Either way, I think the idea is getting the consistency. So whatever works for you, that's the key. It's not what works for me may not work for someone else, but it's just interesting to talk about. I guess it's a good idea just to talk about the process I go through and what we're looking for. First and foremost, let's just go through. I will pick out. That's not end of day. Let's just get up. So what I like to do, I just a list of stocks. Whatever's moving tend to be, if there's a bit of action in there's something to look at. If there's no action, they won't move too much, and then they won't pop up. This is just a basic rises in the last 15 minutes. We've got another one. We've got a few different ones. Top rises. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Top rises above in 100k. Nothing on that list at the moment. Yeah, but basically, what I'll go through, I'll just scroll through these. Let's get my chart back up. I'll just scroll through these and see what's moving. You click it off and see something that takes my fancy. A lot of the times, it's not so much looking for what is quite on the move. I mean, you like to see it coming out of, we're always looking for contraction into expansion, and you got obviously that longer term on a daily basis, and you get that longer term chart. This one's a bit, what is it, RSG? I mean, it's up 5% today, but it's still contracting lower. There's nothing said that's changing just at the moment. So we're looking, just flicking through some charts one after another. Just get an idea. What do we got there, Maya? Just get an idea of what's moving. All right, and obviously with the technical basis of what we look for. Yeah, we'll take a look at FMG a bit later on. Then I'll just chart that down. All right, so just flicking through, you should be able to. It should be fairly clear. Looking at the charts, what's moving, what's not. What's trending high on a weekly basis, a daily basis. If you got down on a daily, up on a weekly, it's something potentially to look at. Are we getting into contraction on the weekly? You can see it on the daily. Then we want to see a base build. So all those sort of factors. But just going through, and then I've set up another little chart. I'll just flick it in. So if it's something that takes my fancy, let's just look at one that's moving for us at the moment. Galaxy. So say for instance, it was back here somewhere. Back to this little breakout. Well, we're looking at it just popping off 30 cents. All right, so then you want to look at it. So that on a weekly, you can see that trend using the MAs. It's contracted lower. It's starting to find that base at 30 cents. It's bouncing off 30. It's getting rejected off there as well. You can see our stochastics are going from oversold to overbought. So that leg is starting to push higher. It's getting a bit of steam. It was somewhere around, if you can see, somewhere around there, off that 30 cent mark. So we know the weekly's on our side. Go to the daily. The daily's starting to, finding support. So we want to look for contraction down. We want to look for that coming out of contraction into expansion, which is what we got eventually. But at that stage, I just wanted to see. So what I do is just flick it onto. If I don't know what they do, what the actual stock does, just bring it onto here and just see. So I can just see I've got my market depth, see what it's doing, enough liquidity. Yeah, what's okay, 2.2 mil at the moment. That's what it's done today. It's got a lot of liquidity on the bid and the offer. Go through to see what sector it's in. It's always a good idea just to see what sector, because then you know if that sector's moving, if it's got a bit of positivity. You can go through your sector analysis if you like. There's different ways to do that. Just seeing where it's moving. Is that a good sector? Is this happen to be something that you're going to jump into, but the sector's doing bad, so that's going to weigh on the stock price eventually, you'd think. Just put in probability against you anyway. And see what recent announcements. We've got this here just to see what's popped up on it. So you can just scroll through those. If it's been a really relatively good news flow, you know that's okay. That there's a lot of positivity in that stock, in a good sector. Okay, a lot of depth there. So there's a lot of pretty much everything's lining up for us. And then just going through and picking out your entry from there. And we can see that one did play out quite well on Galaxy. And we look for I think it's through 37 and a half. So doing really well for us at the moment. We're looking for an exit up towards 48.50. I can't quite remember now. Just a partial anyway, half off there. So yeah, that's the way I would attack it. All right. So then the idea is just going through, picking out something on the technical basis that looks good, rather than sit there and do reading after reading and look for a hot stock. Someone else's pick. I like to just flick through the charts and then the fundamental backing, see if it's looking good for me, if it's sounding good news flow. So you know that if it's bad news flow and it just happens to be popping up for whatever reason, I don't think I'd want to get into it anyway. But I'd like to be supported by some good fundamentals, and then your overall, I guess, major macro view of that sector. Is it doing all right? The market's on your side, and then you should just be able to pick out get enough little stocks there to jump into, and then it's really just working your way down to your entry, getting your entry set up. So that's what I'd like to do anyway. So first and foremost for me is just looking at the price action. Yeah. So a good question, Emery. It's sometimes you can see. I can't think of one just off the bat. You just want to see a decent amount of volume on the buy and the sell. Sometimes there's something that's moving. You go, oh, that's great. Let's get into it. But there's next to no offers. Okay, so the sellers are not stacked up, which means that good for you if you can get through those and take off. But sometimes it just makes it hard to get out. Also, that it could mean that it could just topple over. So what we're looking for, if we look at Galaxy again. Let's just go back here. If we can drag that down, so you can see there's on the bid there at 45.5. There's 300,000 on the offer. There's 281,000, and you can see that depth going down. So there's quite a lot of volume going through on that one. I'm just trying to think of something else that may have light volume. So you just know that if the structure's working in your favour, you're not going to get caught out with a sharp move either way. You might jump in and then it spikes against you because the volume's quite thin and there's a big seller that comes in and bangs you out of the stop and then bounces back up. So it just gives you, well, for me anyway, I like to see it, support that you're not going to get any sharp moves, whipping you. It's not going to be a whippy stock or volatile. I mean, there's good times to have volatility in the stock, but but it's just good to see there's enough volume that when you can get in, if you've got a bigger parcel to jump in as well, you can get that, you can actually buy it, if that makes sense. There was one a while ago, I'm just trying to think of the code that had, there's only 4 or 5 on the offer at different levels, and then if you happen to buy, you know, say there's 1,000 shares and it was only $1,000, you wanted to buy 5,000, say it was at 46, this as Galaxy for example, the next one might have been 48 on the offer, and then 49, 49 and a half, so you can just see if you're going to hit it at market, you want to buy it quick, you're going to get a bad fill, if that makes sense. So you just want to make sure that your fill's going to be clean, there's enough that it's not going to move away from you too quick if you're on the right side of it. And in the same token, if it goes into a resistance zone and you're thinking about getting out, it's not going to be drop on you to, you know, you go from a profitable trade to, you know, not, I wouldn't say not profitable, but you can really eat away on your profits there with something that's a bit thinner. Does that make sense there, I guess, Anne-Marie? Or and to everyone else? I mean, it's just good to see the depth in there, just the buyers and the sellers, a good quantity in there. Just trying to think of some you can see that there's Silver Lake, that's sort of along the same lines, some good volume on there. What else we got? Just see what this one's doing. You can see it's a bit lighter on, this is the one we've been speaking about for a while, NTI. It's a bit lighter on there, so it's 11,000 on the bid, 14,000, 3, 6, and you can just see 43, 42 and a half, 42, 41, so it's fairly clean. I guess with this one, if you're going to buy 10,000, you wouldn't just go bang at market, you end up getting it, I guess 44 and a half, but you can just work that order a bit more, but it's just something to take note when you're looking at it. Alright, now as I do, I've lost my way a bit. So like I was saying, so first I would go through, if I pick out something I like, go through, you know, all this stacks up as well, it looks good, looking for an entry and just trying to get, then it's just a matter of, you know, like we've spoken about before, picking out the anchors and different things like that. If we can just get this one up actually, I'll get, this is Coca-Cola, something we just alerted to not long ago, probably today. It's got the potential, you can see it's just popped out of through that resistance level around the 940. I'll draw that up actually. So it's just, I guess what I'm trying to get at just at the moment is the process of putting together trades and why you're looking at it. Okay, is it something to go on the watch list, is it something to forget about, or is it something that's looking really good and you just want to jump in now? What happened there? Alright, that's looking alright there. Alright, so we've come up with this one, Coke. Okay, everything looking good. Fundamentally, it's got a good backing. It's popped up on our charts. It's looking in a good zone. Alright, then we just want to see what the bias is of the actual overall market. And the bias, I mean, which way is it biased? Alright, up, down, or sideways. And that way you might have to just jump off and on a few different charts. And I'd like to just back it up to a weekly. And if we see that, just go over to a weekly on Coke. You see it's had a big push down from 2013, big push down, sort of unabated push down to that 825 zone, bit of a bounce off, bit good reaction off there. And remembering everything is what we see in the charts and what we're reading in the charts is not with the price actions, it's the action and reaction from buyers and sellers. So if you're basing it off a pure technical view, you know that someone has made a decision at each level. Where there's an action and reaction, there's a buy or a sell, there's an actual, I guess they come together. There's a reason why someone's buying and what someone's selling. So whether they've done, you know, just off a technical basis, they're chasing the market, whatever reason, there's a reason that's shown on the charts there. So it is just the interaction between buyers and sellers is what we're viewing on the chart, and what price action and what's happening. So there, for me, that's what I'm looking. I sort of spoken about before, the psychology behind it. action reaction, what levels, where's an important level we expect action reaction, what does that important level mean, and just trying to make sense of that chart that way. And if you can get obviously the fundamentals in your corner and they're looking good, what it really is just drilling down to an entry. And that's, this is just as an example, looking at Coke, you're just looking at the action reaction between buyers and sellers. It's had a good push up. This is a weekly good push up through into 2013, big sell off end of 2014 down to this 825, big reaction off that zone. Couldn't go on with it. You might have thought it was just going to continue back up for whatever reason. Okay, it's Coke, it's good. Had a bit of an extended move, so you probably expect some more longer term consolidation, which it got. It had another sell off, just washed out those lows. Bit of reaction off that level. Sellers haven't finished just yet. Another push down just to wash out those, but on in a mild level. It wasn't a good push through. It's not negative movement, just that sort of washout only mildly, and then bounce back up. A solid bounce, still holding lower highs. Another retest here of 8. Okay, and then we got the action back up. All right, so we're just starting to get those buyers are stepping in. They stepped in pretty strong here. So whether this is a major lower high, or we're starting to get that buyers have stepped in here. So we drill it down to the daily. All right, so we've got our longer term view. We've just started to push out. We've got that action off $8. I think it was $8. Push up, took out that resistance level at 940, and then we're just getting that reaction lower again as the sellers start to take charge again. But what we're seeing here is just an inside level, double bottom, whatever you want to call it, double tap, double test off that sort of 910 zone. And just remembering that back to the weekly. The weekly is sort of in that oversold. It's stretched down here. All right, so that level is stretched. We'll just go over the indicators a bit later on, but this is what we're looking at anyway. And so we're building a picture on the technical side, and really what we're trying to do is put together an entry. All right, if it looks okay, it's something to keep on our radar. And this one's starting to build. It's popped up off that 920. This is just regarding the price action. Don't worry about any of your technical indicators at the moment. Really just want to see that pop up. I would like to see a bit more of this sort of this action retest. Steppers, the sellers trying to come in, they're just getting worn out. They're getting run out of steam on the sell side, and then the buyer stepping in with a bit more strength and to take it back up. But you want to see that. Always looking for a higher low or a lower high, whether it's buying or selling. If you want to buy, looking for those higher lows to build, just to wash out those sellers, and the reverse for selling. All right. So first and foremost for me, what I'd like to look at is price action and your bias of the market. So I'm seeing that the bias was down, but that's starting to weaken, and we're starting to get signs of the bias changing, and that's where we're going from contraction into expansion again. Does that make sense to everyone there? All right, let's just drill down to why we're liking indicators. All right, and how we use indicators. I think there's been a bit. So like I said, first and foremost is price action, what we like to look at, and the interaction between buyers and sellers and where they're getting caught, levels where we expect something to happen, and then the way we use indicators. If I can just get a better chart up here. And how we can use indicators just as a support mechanism more than anything else. What I like to use is sort of momentum based. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'll just get rid of that. Momentum based indicators. I just like to see the momentum of a move. That's what I'm interested in. Is it running out of steam? Is it stretched into a zone? So that means if you're buying on a breakout, you're sort of buying, the probability is getting a bit lower. If you're buying on a breakout, is it when the market's stretched into there? So look at Coke, for example. If I was going to buy, I don't know, just say it was still heading high and looking to buy on this daily chart of a bit of a breakout at 970. I could hold my wrist at 940, for example, if you can see that. To me, by watching stochastics, the momentum of that move up, the strength of that move up, it's getting a bit extended up here. So for me, buying it at with a push up through 970 is more of a low probability trade, just off this daily basis anyway. I mean, there's nothing to say it can't keep going. It can always keep going. You know, against me, and I'm just sort of stuck watching it go without me. But that's how I base my trading, off risk reward. I'm just trying to manage my risk, and I think just down here, to me, that's a tad risky if I'm just buying there. I'd rather, like I said before, just see that contraction, so I can easily identify my risk on the trade. Where if it breaks out, I'm getting the stochastics on my side, coming from more of a oversold or that sort of scenario, and just expanding. So that I'm using stochastics to expand. You can use MACDs as well. I don't know if anyone's sort of got something they like. I was using MACDs for a while, but you try to use them on the same basis of what's happening in the market. Actually, I can just probably add a MACD in there. Here we go. Alright, so that's your standard MACD down here. And you can see here, the pressure's rising. It's gone sort of from oversold. It's starting to come out, starting to cross your zero line. The buyers are sort of starting to take control up here, but my stochastics, the way I like to look at it, it's getting a bit stretched, so I'd rather see it have a bit of a contraction. And we might see that MACD could roll up. There's no reason why it can't just keep pushing higher, and that stochastics be bouncing around. But I'm looking for the overall momentum of that move. Does that make sense to everyone there? I'm just trying to read the momentum rather than, and you know, say for example when the stochastics were pushing down, it's getting to oversold, but in context, if this market was just really weak and really negative, you'd expect it to be pushing down here quite strong towards $8. It really isn't. It's just contracting lower. You know, sellers are trying to push it down. They're pushing it down with a bit of strength. You can see where they're getting to that oversold, but price itself is holding up. All right, where if we look at it at a different, say this move here, if you can see that, it's gone from overbought up here, up near resistance. Now that move down on price action was a lot stronger than this sort of price action here. There's no real, you know, higher lows, lower highs building, lower lows, lower highs like we got here. We've got a low here, lower high, lower low, that sort of price action, and it's moving down to oversold. It's just bang, straight down, and we washed out that previous low. So that's a different way, and we got it to that oversold. So it's just a way to use this stochastics, I guess. Does that make sense to everyone there? The way you're viewing it, just strength of a move rather than, okay, it's oversold, I'll just jump in and buy it. Or I know people use what they call it, divergence. I mean, that's a bow to your string, I guess. A bow to your string, a string to your bow. I try to be cool when I say those things. It just doesn't come out quite right. I am cool though, I'm telling you. Right, so does that make sense the way we're using it, and with the overall context of the actual move of the price structure, sorry, and also using MAs, my moving averages. I like to use a 20 and a 50 pretty much across the board. Sometimes use a 200, but just a 20 and a 50 because I find that gets me in the right position. And you can see that the 20 and the 50, if you just, I know there's a lot of things about using the MAs when they're crossing up, crossing down, buy when they cross up, sell when they cross down, but then you get chopped. You know, you're getting chopped around, say in these type of price action, this type of price action in here, you're getting chopped, bang, 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 because that price action is really, the bias has gone from down to, you don't know if it's going to bounce back up, or what's the bias of the overall market doing, what's the price action doing. That's more consolidation. It's just between two levels, support and resistance, and then you could just get chopped in and out of here if you use the and what's to say, you know, by now you're getting a bit annoyed, you're getting chopped up, and when that pushes up, okay, I'm sick of buying it now, I'm not going to buy when the moving average cross up, and that happens to be that leg higher. So that's why you just got to take each indicator with a grain of salt, I guess, and just understand why you're using it. But yeah, that's why I like to use it anyway. So I'll just try to wrap it up there. So our, just on the last note, is with the MAs, if what we're trying to use the MAs for is a good idea of which way the market's biased, and it doesn't matter what time frame. MAs cross up, I know, okay, I'm looking for something to happen. I'm looking for the leg up. I don't want to be selling that when the MAs in this instance are up, But what's my overall bias? The market at this stage is still down. It's got to get through this level. Okay, it's pushed up. All right, we're looking quite good there. The market's contracted back, so I expect contraction. And so now we're really looking for a bit more intraday, not intraday, so shorter term contraction on the daily basis. The MA start rolling up, and I'm probably happy to look for a buy entry up in there. But that's the way we try to keep it. If you're looking for the weekly chart, you can see that with this leg up here on the daily, there's this major move here. That's brought the MAs higher on the weekly basis. Okay, they're starting to roll higher, so we're looking on the weekly, drilling down to a daily, looking for our entry. All right, so that's the way I like to use the MAs too, and it sort of keeps you out of trouble. If I give you a good example on CVT, can we see that there? Yep. This is one that, if I straighten it properly, this is one I know we mentioned before that it was more of a buy on a whim, on more fundamentals than anything else, and it just didn't work out that way. The fundamentals were good. Just a bit of a history. They, I think that what do they do? Secure. They do encryption of different things. Yep, new phone. We'll just have a look at that in a sec. So the fundamentals were, looking good. They got into the UK government, potentially a good deal with the UK government, but the problem is the technicals weren't looking good, so I bought it anyway. I guess stupidity, not a lot, just a bit of a nibble, and it just hasn't looked like it's coming back. And you can see the technicals looking for the setup. Everything we described as a buy is not working for me. I was around this stage, I guess, in this move lower, just sort of bought it, expecting that to hold and go. It just didn't. So the MA's rolled down. I still went and jumped and bought it. So technically, I shouldn't have dived in that, and it's still technically it's trending lower. The only thing that leg down is getting a bit stretched in comparison to this leg down from say 69 down to 20. But yeah, that's where if you're getting everything in your corner, everything together, then I think it puts you in a high probability trade, and that's what you're looking for ultimately, is a high probability trade. I mean, you are, in my books, you are trading probability. It's a consistency game trading. You're trying to get something, a high probability trade, high probability entry, and this is how I would do it. I guess what we talked about from start to finish. So let's just wrap that up there, and we'll get into some charts now. So we've got a few people looking at a few different things. Is that all good there, guys? Let's just go over to what were we looking at there? Seek. Alright, we'll take a look at Seek then. And I think Emery just had a question on this one, so just see if I can get a chart up now. Tried to short entry it on the 15th, which was, what candle was that? Alright, it's down around here. Alright, 15. Afterwards I thought I should have waited for a break of the longer term upsloping trend. Yep. Alright, sorry, just reading this, guys. Looking at your alert for this one, it looks like a bad prior to a break of that second line. Weekly chart. Okay. So the reasoning, matter of probabilities and what other factors may have greater weighting. Yeah, alright, so I think Amy was saying she was shorting it on around the 15th. Okay, so for me it's just looking at that, you sort of, I guess, just looking at the stochastics and the different, let's just drill it down. So what we have there to mark it up the reason why we sort of like this as a short, you've got a resistance up here. It's tried once, twice. The key level was through here. Okay, you've pushed up, pulled back, washed that out, and then you've gone back up and retested this zone. So that's really, that was the ankle level for me. And then when you get this sort of zone just through here, you're starting to see, okay, is this longer term up? Is this just contraction lower, or is this starting to fail this longer move higher? All right, so take into account everything that we're seeing. All right, so as that's starting to fail, and then I'm obviously just waiting. You can see the price action. We've had a bit of a washout through here. That was a minor, just that rejection, but it was right up into a resistance zone in the previous highs, and that started to fail, and it's really confirmed failure once it washed out that zone there. So the next levels we're marking up, and you can see that major lower high, and especially off a double top, I think that's, we call it a retest fail. If I start mentioning that later on, just so you know, that's a double top. Yeah, it's pushed up, pulled back, washed out a few lows, it's gone back up and retested it, and it's failed. If that was a strong market, we should have seen price action like this, going through it. But we didn't see that. We saw the opposite, a bit of a washout up to there, and then wash out some of these lows through here. All right, so does that make sense? So at the moment, my bias is to the downside, especially after we've seen this lower high, a major lower high. So in the way of just through here. All right, so we've got the market's pushed up, it's pulled back, whether that's contraction, lower, and then we build for another strong leg up like we've seen. We've had that leg 1, 2, 3, built a little base there, 4. That's not a very strong move. Okay, are we going to get contraction back like we've seen here, down, and then shoot straight up? But once it starts getting up into this zone, it should take out the highs if that's what it is, contraction, but we start rolling over, and we're starting to see failure through 1565. Push through the lows, built that to lower high, and then we start failing through here. So really what I'm looking for now is that move back in, and I want to see a lower high build. So in context to this, it's not happening at the moment. This thing could, and we've got MAs on our side, we're into an overbought zone, so that leg is stretched, and it should, if it was a strong market, it should have got a lot higher than that, at least retested up. You would expect it to anyway. When we start, that leg down, this from 1588 down to here, that's one leg, contracted 1/3 to 2/3, it's got to overbought. So there's a lot of factors, and you've broken some support. There's a lot of factors saying that could roll over. So what I'm looking for now is really just the entry. Okay, because like we've explained, all that price structure, what's happened, if it was strong, we shouldn't have seen, we should have seen it keep going. It was not strong, and we've got that in context to a lower high as well. Could have been a little entry through here, preemptive of this move. So you get one leg down, lower high build. Okay, we've got to, if I can just get rid of all this, actually. So we've got a leg down here, a push up, another leg down. So what I'm looking for here is in the zone at the moment on my daily charts. I'm expecting a rollover and to be at least attacking that. It could pull up short, could be wrong, but I want to get it on my side. I want to see that minor, off a daily chart, that lower high build, and then it rolling over. At that stage on the 15th, say, it's not as clear there. Does that make sense? You've had this leg down, sort of pop back up. It's not a clear. I guess it's on a very minor scale. You want it to be a bit clearer. A move like that, where it's a bit of price action, it's struggling, and even through, it's probably a bit preemptive, a short through here. It's a bit clearer. Maybe if I can delete some of these lines. Let's just go through and delete some of these just to get it a bit clearer what I'm talking about. So in this, if you're looking for a short in that stage, okay, you can see that there's more price action to work from. It's pushed up, it's had another little push up, it's struggling, it keeps touching down to 1546. It's had another go, and you can see just that pressure down is, you got the MAs down, the pressure's down, it's struggling to make, it's making lower highs, it's struggling. So if I got a breakout here, my risk could be up here, I could have traded that. You have to go against it at one stage, but in hindsight it worked out. it's slightly different to that type of price action. You've got an extended move down. You haven't really got a lot of contraction, and you're sort of more on the oversold level than getting to what we are now. And I can't see a clear, if it was going to some minor lower highs, we could get further up on the stochastics, a bit more into over, as buyers go in, but the sellers are starting to win those minor lower highs, and then you break through a key level. It could have been here, for instance, as we come off like that, if that makes sense. All right, so that's just, I guess, it's a slight difference. You've got an extended move here, so like we said, a good extended move is generally followed by a bit of contraction, because you're extended from this anchor level up here. If we can say so, the ankle to that the anchor to that move down is way up top here. If we just change that color just to make it a bit, well, that didn't work out very well, did it? So the anchor to move should be there. Area, I want to change that to apply. Okay, so at the moment we've had a leg down, it's popped up, that leg down, the anchor's way up here, so when you're trading short, you're trading in more of a stretch zone, so it's just, you want to see some of that contraction back up 1/3 to 2/3 like of that leg down, and then looking for a short. So at the moment we're getting into that zone there, so it's just slightly different to selling it sort of down here. Alright, does that make a bit more sense there, Anne-Marie? We'll get into a few other charts before we get too carried away. If not, just email me later on, I'll get back to you anyway. FMG, someone wanted to look at, I want to get rid of that actually. There we go. Alright, FMG. FMG is a funny one. I mean, that leg there is still going up. It's quite clear. Show that the legs, the anchor to that leg for me. Let's just get that up. Don't worry about that. Let's try again. So who was asking about FMG? Nisha. Alright. So FMG, I know, and we know this because we've been sort of just keeping an eye on it. We do know the shorts were stacked up on this one, and you can sort of find open interest on the short side, see how many shorts are starting to build compared to buyers. So you know that they're just getting squeezed out at the moment. And if you just go back to just looking at a weekly chart, you can understand why you're getting up into a resistance level, and this is why I guess I can't stress enough is the importance of an entry. Okay, you're building your picture, and if I was looking at a short here, I'd built my picture. Okay, FMG, iron ore, if it was that stage, wasn't looking that great. My picture was looking good for a short. I'm at a good zone, a good level, but I want to look for my entry, and the entry just didn't play out for me, pure and simple. Good extended leg up, so you probably expect a bit of reaction off this $6 zone, and I can understand why people are jumping in, shorting it. But this is why I think, taking it that one step further and shorting it off an entry, off a minor lower high, when you get the anchors are broken, and the anchor I mean for this leg up, if we just look at that, you need to see an anchor broken. And if you just go from the higher lows that are building here, maybe here, they're just not getting broken. Does that make sense? That's not really a high low in here, and maybe another minor one, they're not getting broken. So that leg up could just keep going. You don't want to fight the trend. We've all heard that before. You want to see it broken now. I guess this is where you could, just to be, I guess another little thing, if it does get broken, it just comes screaming down, so be it. You might miss out on the short, and you've spent a bit of work, spent a bit of time looking at it, waiting, and then you miss it. That happens. That's trading too, but what you're trying to do is, like we said, you're being consistent in your approach, consistent in the way you trade, consistent on what you look for, and then just realizing that if you can get somewhere around the 60% mark, right, that's great stats. Even if you get 50-50, on your stats, but you're 2 to 1. That's profitability, and that's consistency. And then you just try to work on it from there. So consistency in your approach and looking, for me, I'd look for an anchor. I want to see evidence of it rolling over. As sellers taking control, they're not. Buyers are still in control and they're still getting squeezed out. So if you sold it in here, you're thinking it's going to roll over, you stop. Ideally would be up there. Okay, you've just been squeezed out. You try again, you're squeezed out. Try again, you're squeezed out. Maybe squeezed out just. Or if you sold it somewhere in here, you could be getting squeezed out again. You don't know. So there's no reason why this is going to roll over. So I guess that's just what we're looking for. So the current anchor for me, I want to see that attacked and broken. If I can see that, just draw that up. We've had price actions there. It's popped up. All right, it's come back down. It's made a minor high low too, and it's back up here. I want to see that. If that's going to hold even a bit of a wash out of that zone, I want to see that price action. So that's the first signs of this strong leg up of breaking, or signs that it's at least going to. You don't know whether it's going to go into contraction lower to build a major leg higher, another major leg higher, or it's going to roll over completely and just fall out of bed. All right, so that's what you want to see. You want to see that sort of break. You want to see that leg tested, and it just hasn't at the moment. But if we get that, and then we start getting initial reaction back up, as maybe more buyers go, I'm just going to follow this trend up, and then you start getting something which you can justify risking. Does that make sense? That high low building, and that could take us down and just really start washing out some of these longs, and then you could get that accelerated move down, which we've spoken about previously. All right, does that make sense there? So FMG for me personally, wouldn't buy it or sell it right where it is at the moment. I mean, selling it without a setup, you could get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and it could just keep higher. But in saying that, it is sort of up into that zone. You can see through 6 to 625, where you might, and this leg up hasn't halted. There's been no change in that leg up, so I'll probably expect a bit of reaction. If I'm going to buy it, I want to see that reaction off that level, a major, or at least consolidation through there. But I think it's going to take a fair bit of time to build. So that's me on FMG. Right, just take a quick look on New Farm. The entry on New Farm, we're not in it. I haven't alerted that previously. I'll get you up. I'll show them the chart. If you just give me 2 minutes, let me just see if I've got that still. Basically, in every chart we've got, just as a bit of I'm wondering if that's okay. So a while ago it was through $8. You can see. So if you've seen that that chart there quite clearly, that's the reasoning behind it. And this is what we're targeting up towards 1150. I don't think it played out. It might have played out now, but you can see that action leg up. We've got reaction off sort of that zone, retest, and we're starting to get contraction. We were looking for a push out of contraction. We got that through $8, but then just started struggling up at 840. So that was our previous entry. It played out at a small profit. Did it keep going? Alright, so let's just get out of that. So that was somewhere through here. So that was through here. You can see that longer term high lows building, lower highs. Once it started getting through 8, we're feeling we're on the right side. We started getting resistance through here. We probably took it off through there, a small profit. But looking at the weekly looks good. We didn't have an entry there. I'd like to see, that's a good spike up today, and that's a strong, those last 2 days were really strong. I can't justify my risk on that just yet, and I just wanted to see it push up through that. And then what I want to see now, we'll just quickly go over that, is a high low build. So no entry just yet on New Farm, but it's on the radar, and it's on the radar because if you look at, just go back to the weekly, you can see I like the stochastics. I like seeing that sort of cross up, and it's in a zone. It's in a potential high low. The high low is not confirmed until we get up through this high, and that's at say 970 thereabouts. I think high 970. So that high low is confirmed, but you're trying to preempt it with the lower charts. Okay, so we're in a potentially good zone, and we just want to see the anchors of that leg down off the daily, this leg down, start to break, and we're getting that, or we did just get that yesterday. So really, I want to see now is a high low build. All right, so again, it's just going through that process. We can see that price action there. We've got through previous highs, that blowout through here, a pullback with sort of retest. You can see that price action. We're building these minor high lows in here, but then we just bounced off. We bounced off quite strong, so I didn't see that type of price action I want to see for a setup. But what we could see, if this makes sense here, we've got that leg up there. I want to see maybe a pullback, and we call that an inside buy, and then you get that acceleration through. So if we get it below this 960 to 70, that contraction just back, build another high low, potentially around 880, 870, 890, that sort of area, like this type of price action, I can justify my risk quite easily off a minor high low, and then look for that inside break, and that will, I think, bring in a fair few buyers, especially considering what the weekly is doing as well. All right, does that make sense there, Bill? That wasn't your question, was it? No, it was. All right. So we'll probably just knock it on the head there. Any more questions before we finish up there, guys? Let's just see what the market's doing overall. Give you a chance to say yes or no. So we're down 40 on the market, still pushing lower. Probably a bit of profit taking too, I'd say, into the number tonight. Just trying to see where Seek's at the moment. So Seek, I'm just keeping an eye on that, Anne-Marie. Elders, yeah. So all right, we'll call it quits there. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. Today, have a great weekend. A couple of good days coming, I think. A couple of good days weather coming for us as well. My wife's probably going to get me out doing some bit of gardening or something like that. I don't mind if I've got a couple of beers in my hand. I mentioned that a bit, but I'm looking forward to a beer this weekend, I think. And we'll see you again next week on Monday. Yeah, have a good weekend. And if you've got any queries or anything at all, just send it through to support@tradesetup.com.au. Even if you just want to ask a question, about the app, about what it's doing, yeah, send it through. And like I said, finally, if you can just spread the word, that would be great. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you joining every day too. I think that's good. We're building slowly, bit by bit, building a bit of a following here, and that's what we want. So any questions are welcome, any at all on any chart. If you reckon I'm talking rubbish, I don't mind that either. A few people have told me that before. But yeah, just put it in. It's always good to hear different opinions. So again, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will speak to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.